Nepal, a landlocked nation nestled between the towering peaks of the Himalayas and the plains of the Indian subcontinent, boasts one of the world's most fascinating and complex histories. From ancient kingdoms to modern republic, this small nation has maintained its independence for centuries while serving as a cultural bridge between India and Tibet. The history of Nepal begins in the mists of prehistory, with archaeological evidence suggesting human habitation dating back to the Paleolithic period. The Kathmandu Valley, Nepal's historical and cultural heart, has been continuously inhabited for over 2,000 years. Ancient texts, including Hindu epics like the Mahabharata, mention the region as a sacred land blessed by the gods. The earliest recorded civilization in Nepal was that of the Kiratis, who are believed to have ruled the Kathmandu Valley from around 700 BCE to 300 CE. According to the Gopal Raja Vamshavali, one of Nepal's most important historical chronicles, the Kiratis were skilled warriors and traders who established the foundations of Nepalese civilization. King Yalambar, the first Kirati ruler mentioned in historical records, is said to have fought in the Great Kurukshetra War described in the Mahabharata. The Kiratis were followed by the Likavis around 300 CE, who brought with them Hindu culture and Sanskrit learning from the Indian plains. The Likavi period, lasting until approximately 879 CE, is considered a golden age of art, architecture, and literature in Nepal. During this era, the famous Prithvi Narayan Temple was built, and trade flourished along the trans-Himalayan routes connecting India with Tibet and China. Following the decline of the Likavis, Nepal entered what many historians consider its most culturally productive period under the Malla dynasties, beginning around 1200 CE. The Mallas, whose name derives from the Sanskrit word for wrestler, were great patrons of art, architecture, and religion. They transformed the Kathmandu Valley into a center of Hindu and Buddhist learning that attracted pilgrims and scholars from across Asia. Initially ruling as a unified kingdom, the Malla realm was eventually divided into three competing city-states: Kathmandu, Patan, and Bhaktapur. This division, while politically fragmenting the valley, led to intense cultural competition as each kingdom sought to outdo the others in architectural splendor and artistic achievement. The magnificent palace squares, intricate wood carvings, and soaring pagoda-style temples that define Nepal's architectural heritage largely date from this period. The Malla kings were also responsible for establishing many of Nepal's most important religious festivals and cultural traditions. The Indra Jatra festival in Kathmandu, the chariot procession of Radho Machindranath in Patan, and countless other celebrations that continue today were institutionalized during Malla rule. Trade prospered as Nepal became a crucial link in the commercial networks connecting India, Tibet, and China. By the mid-18th century, the divided Malla kingdoms had grown weak through constant warfare and faced a new threat from the expanding Gorkha kingdom in the western hills. Under the leadership of King Prithvi Narayan Shah, the Gorkhas embarked on an ambitious campaign of conquest that would fundamentally reshape Nepal's political landscape. Prithvi Narayan Shah, often called the founder of modern Nepal, possessed both military genius and visionary leadership. He recognized that the small hill kingdoms could only survive by uniting against the growing influence of the British East, India Company, and other foreign powers. His famous declaration that Nepal should remain a garden between two rocks, referring to British India and Qing China, became the cornerstone of Nepalese foreign policy for centuries. The conquest of the Kathmandu Valley was completed in 1769 with the capture of Kathmandu. During the Indra Jatra festival, the Shah dynasty established Kathmandu as their capital and continued expanding their territory through military campaigns that eventually created a Nepalese empire stretching from Kashmir in the west to Sikkim in the east, and from the Tibetan Plateau in the north to the Gangetic Plains in the south. Nepal's expansionist policies inevitably brought it into conflict with the British East India Company. The Anglo-Nepalese War marked a turning point in Nepalese history. Despite fierce resistance and several British defeats, Nepal's limited resources eventually proved insufficient against British military might and economic power. The war concluded with the Treaty of Shugoli in 1816, which significantly reduced Nepal's territory. The kingdom lost approximately one-third of its land, including the lucrative plains regions and the hill stations of Shimla and Darjeeling. However, Nepal retained its independence, a remarkable achievement in an era when most Asian nations were falling under European colonial control. The treaty also established the tradition of Gorkha military service with the British Indian Army, recognizing the exceptional fighting qualities of Nepalese soldiers. This relationship provided Nepal with both military prestige and economic benefits that continue to this day. In 1846, a palace massacre led by Jung Bahadur Rana fundamentally altered Nepal's political structure. Jung Bahadur eliminated potential rivals and established the Rana family as hereditary prime ministers, effectively reducing the Shah kings to ceremonial figureheads. The Rana regime, lasting over a century until 1951, represented one of the most centralized and autocratic systems of government in Asian history. The Ranas pursued a policy of deliberate isolation, severely restricting foreign contact and internal development to maintain their grip on power. While this isolation helped preserve Nepal's independence and cultural traditions, it also left the country economically underdeveloped and socially stratified. Education was limited to the elite, and the vast majority of Nepalese remained impoverished peasants bound to feudal land tenure systems. Despite their autocratic rule, the Ranas made some significant contributions to Nepal's development. They constructed the first roads, established basic administrative systems, and maintained Nepal's independence during the turbulent colonial period. Jung Bahadur's visit to Europe in 1850 to 1851 was the first by any Nepalese ruler and helped establish diplomatic relations with major powers. By the early 20th century, growing literacy and exposure to democratic ideals began to challenge Rana rule. The Nepali Congress, founded in 1947 by B.P. Koirala and others, led the movement for democratic change. King Prithvi Shah, long marginalized by the Ranas, allied himself with the democratic forces. The movement culminated in 1950-1951. With King Prithvi's dramatic escape to the Indian embassy and subsequent exile to India. Popular uprisings across Nepal, combined with Indian pressure and changing international circumstances, forced the Ranas to negotiate. The Delhi Agreement of 1951 restored the king's authority and promised democratic reforms. King Mahendra, who ascended the throne in 1955, initially supported democratic governance. Nepal's first general election in 1959 brought the Nepali Congress to power under B.P. Koirala's leadership. However, in 1960, King Mahendra dismissed the elected government, banned political parties, and established the panchayat system, a form of guided democracy that concentrated power in the monarchy. The panchayat system, lasting until 1990, was based on village and district councils that theoretically gave people a voice in governance while maintaining royal control. This period saw significant infrastructure development, including the construction of roads connecting Nepal to India and China, the establishment of Prithvi University, and various modernization projects. King Birendra, who succeeded his father in 1972, continued the panchayat system but faced growing pressure for democratic reforms. Economic problems, social changes, and the influence of democratic movements in neighboring countries gradually undermined the system's legitimacy. By the late 1980s, Nepal faced mounting economic and political crises. The 1989–1990 trade dispute with India, combined with internal pressure from the Nepali Congress and Communist parties, sparked massive demonstrations demanding democratic change. The People's Movement of 1990 brought hundreds of thousands of Nepalese onto the streets in peaceful protests. Faced with overwhelming popular opposition and unable to rely on military support, King Birendra agreed to constitutional monarchy and multi-party democracy. The new constitution of 1990 established a parliamentary system with the king as constitutional head of state and guaranteed fundamental rights and freedoms. The 1990s brought new hope but also new challenges. While Nepal enjoyed unprecedented political freedom and civil liberties, the new democratic system struggled with political instability, corruption, and economic stagnation. Frequent changes of government prevented consistent policy implementation, and rural areas saw little improvement in living conditions. In 1996, the Communist Party of Nepal launched an armed insurgency aimed at establishing a republic through revolutionary war. Led by Pushpa Kemal Dahal, the Maoists exploited rural grievances and social inequalities to build a significant following, particularly among marginalized communities. The 10-year conflict devastated Nepal, claiming over 15,000 lives and displacing hundreds of thousands of people. The insurgency effectively controlled large portions of rural Nepal and severely strained the country's limited resources. The trajectory of Nepalese history took a dramatic turn on June 1, 2001, when Crown Prince Dipendra killed most of the royal family, including King Birendra and Queen Aishwarya, before taking his own life. The massacre shocked the nation and created a profound political crisis. King Gyanendra, Birendra's brother, ascended the throne amid widespread suspicion about the official account of events. King Gyanendra gradually assumed more direct control, culminating in February 2005 when he dismissed the government, declared a state of emergency, and assumed absolute power. This move united the previously fractured democratic parties and the Maoists in opposition to royal rule. The Second People's Movement in April 2006 brought millions of Nepalese onto the streets demanding the restoration of democracy and an end to the monarchy. The unprecedented scale and intensity of the protests, combined with international pressure, forced King Gyanendra to restore parliament. The restored parliament immediately began negotiations with the Maoists, leading to the Comprehensive Peace Agreement in November 2006. This accord ended the decade-long conflict and paved the way for the Maoists to join mainstream politics. Elections for a constituent assembly in 2008 resulted in a stunning victory for the Maoists, who won the largest number of seats. On May 28, 2008, the Constituent Assembly formally abolished the monarchy and declared Nepal a federal democratic republic, ending 240 years of Shah rule. Since becoming a republic, Nepal has struggled to complete its transition to stable democracy. The Constituent Assembly spent 7 years drafting a new constitution amid political disagreements and social tensions. The devastating earthquakes of April and May 2015, which killed nearly 9,000 people and destroyed much of the country's infrastructure, added to these challenges. The new constitution was finally promulgated in September 2015, establishing Nepal as a federal democratic republic with 7 provinces. However, the constitution faced opposition from Madhesi and other marginalized groups who felt inadequately represented in the federal structure. Despite ongoing political challenges, Nepal has made significant progress in many areas. The successful completion of local, provincial, and federal elections between 2017 and 2018 marked important milestones in the democratic transition. Economic growth, while modest, has gradually improved living standards, and social indicators like literacy and life expectancy have shown steady improvement. Nepal's history reflects the broader themes of South Asian, Civilization, while maintaining its unique character as the world's only Hindu kingdom turned secular republic. From the ancient Karatas to the modern Federal Republic, Nepal has demonstrated remarkable resilience and adaptability. The country's ability to maintain its independence throughout the colonial period, its successful transition from monarchy to republic, and its ongoing efforts to build inclusive democracy serve as testament to the enduring spirit of the Nepalese people. Today, Nepal faces the challenges of economic development, social inclusion, and political stability while preserving its rich cultural heritage and natural environment. As the birthplace of Buddha and home to Mount Everest, Nepal continues to hold a special place in the world's imagination, embodying both ancient wisdom and modern aspirations in its ongoing journey toward prosperity and justice for all its citizens.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more engaging historical content.